Hello and welcome back to another EDH deck design video. Today I'm going to be uploading a new video of my old Bladewing deck. The Bladewing deck video I had posted about a year ago, a little bit older than that. It was before the cons block, and there was a bunch of new dragons and all that. This is one of the eternal decks that I will always keep, not because of the deck, but because of the general. I am a pathetically sentimental thing. This exact card right here, like I don't really care about the deck, but this card right here is worth more to me than the deck. This is a card gifted to me by my mother. She is passed. She died a while ago. I am recording this actually 2 days before her birthday. This is a deck that doesn't get to leave my loft. If you remember any of my older videos, I had talked about purging and getting rid of cards and increasing the value of what decks I felt were worth keeping. This is the primary deck, so this is kind of like my pimpish deck. Because of the value of that, and because of how I feel about this particular general, this exact piece of paper here, I just don't play it much. It's too valuable to me, it's sentimental, it's stupid. It's not even a strong deck. It's actually a very slow and bad deck. But let's go through it. I'm just going to show you what this deck currently is. It is still along the same nature as the previous Bladewing deck. It just has better dragons. That is, it is a dragon tribal, high dragon number count, 30 creatures total, 28 which are dragons, a very small combo element, and a small reanimation theme. So what Bladewing does here, he's very old, printed in Scourge. It is Bladewing, Rorik's Bladewing reanimated after Onslaught, I believe. And he's been printed quite a few times. Most people consider him to be the original reanimator general, because what he does when he enters the battlefield, you reanimate a dragon, and then he has a shade effect where you can pay a blue or a black and a red to give all dragons, that is, all dragons on the battlefield, including your opponents, +1/+1. He's a flyer for 7 mana, 4/4. Mana cost and flying 4/4 body kind of sucks. The only reason he's good is for that reanimation effect. Being that he's been out for so long, he has been grossly outdated and replaced with much better legendary creatures. I will never upgrade past Bladewing. It will always be Bladewing in this deck as a commander. Like I had previously done him with like Rakdos Control and Voltron, just have the callers, but I will always have some kind of Bladewing deck. So we also have all the other Bladewing Eye. This is my preference, but if I'm playing with someone maybe I don't trust, I'll keep this in safe zone and then play some other Bladewing copy. He's been in the from the Vault set. This deck, this used to be what I used to, with the general had to be tucked in, was his Thrall. But let's set him over here and run through the creatures first. I will explain the combo when we get to it. It is very small. It's very generic and known. There's only 2 non-dragon creatures in the deck. That's Burnished Heart and Solemn. The curve of this deck is atrocious. There are 39 lands in this deck, and the curve starts around 5 or 6 as an average. So these 2 are very important because they help me get lands into play. Then there are 28 dragons. Most of these are changed from my last deck. We still have my Thundermaw because I like the haste effect. Haste and a tap down to blockers. If I tutor this to play with like a Dragonstorm, it's good. Steel Hellkite is very generic. It's probably going to be one of the first dragons to get cut when a new better one comes out. Two-Headed Dragon, this is another card that was gifted to me. It's a very flavorful card. Not always the best, but most people don't recognize how hard it is to double block a flyer like this. The flavor thereof, paying 2 to give it +2/0 instead of normal fire breathing. I love this card. Imperial Hellkite is still here because of, sadly, the artwork. This is just not a good card. Technically, it could be a tutor. I've never had good effects with that. It costs too much. Killing Mouth Dragon is fantastic. If you just amplify for 1, what that means is Amplify came out in Legions. Mostly they're on zombies. But what it means is when you cast this, or when it comes into play, you can reveal a creature type from your hand that matches this. This one's Dragon, and this creature enters with that many counters per the Amplify. So if I reveal 2 dragons, he would enter with 6 +1/+1 counters. He's normally a 5/5 flyer, but they can tap to burn creature or player for the number of counters. This is essentially removal bait. This has to be killed, or it's like a Visara the Dreadful. Creature just can't stay on the battlefield. And it can dome opponents too without even combat. Dragon Mage is one of the best cards to go with Bladewing because it puts stuff from my hand into the graveyard. Gives Bladewing more things to pick over. Bogardanian Hellkite is a pretty generic dragon too, but I like this one a lot. It is good removal. I don't have a lot of answers in this deck. My goal is to become the threat so that I have to be answered, and this is somewhere in between. We have a Thunder Dragon, same kind of scenario. I literally have 2 non-flyers, and these is just going to do kind of a generic wipe on smaller creatures. Even better is I can Pyroclasm, I can do this guy at instant speed, and I can also hit all flyers. That's not super good though. Nullspine Dragon is along the same term of idea as the Dragon Mages, because I can sit there and discard all sorts of nonsense and then do more. This is also a possible combo with Warstorm Surge and my combo that comes up as well. Hellkite Tyrant is another generic dragon. This can remove an artifact player from the game and make them literally have to deal with this as soon as possible. Hellkite Charger is a potential combo enabler if you have, like there's an enchantment that if you enchant a creature you untap your lands when you attack, or there's the new dragon that's green and red. If you attack you get 6 mana for your second main, and lots of combos that you can essentially get infinite combat steps. Not too worried about that one here. Moonveil is a generic pump for all creatures. It's kind of half of Bladewing's effect. It's like a bad, well, somewhere between Bladewing and Perforos effect for the fire breathing. Udvar Hellkite is another one of those you must answer this dragons because it just generates so many tokens. Boltwing Marauder, this one's a little strange. Most people probably wouldn't consider this in here. Again, I put the Dragonstorm combo back in. Not Dragonstorm combo, but I put Dragonstorm back in the deck. This can go in with about 2 or 3 other dragons and make for a very scary swing. Dragonlord Kolaghan is the reason I actually chose to put Dragonstorm back in the deck. Because he is a haste enabler. There's a few haste enablers for this deck, but being that this is a tutorable one with Dragonstorm, I can then immediately just kill someone out of nowhere. Again, I'm not focusing on Dragonstorm. If you want a legitimate Dragonstorm deck, you would typically see this maybe in Grixis because you have all the blue 1-mana cantrips, draw you cards, dig, and tutor for the spell itself. Black and red Dragonstorm combo is not really reliable. You're looking to essentially do your 1 or 2 tutors, get a few cards to hand that cost 1 or 2, and then tutor it out. And blue is the better one because you can even use Quicken. That's a 1 blue instant that says you can play a sorcery instant speed and a cantrips. You can do that into someone else's turn. Let's stop talking about Dragonstorm because I don't really want to remake that deck. Kolaghan, the other Kolaghan, is another good fetchable one when you storm out because it is another troop boost, like a generic boost across all attackers. Scourge of the Throne is fantastic because it gives us a potential another combat step. This cost me an armor leg to trade for. I hope to God this drops in price or they reprint it because that was ridiculous. Balefire Dragon is the board wipe dragon. Is a good creature answer. Get things dead on the opponent's side. Really good if you give him lifelink. Crimson Hellkite is another generic old dragon that's really probably not that good. It's just an X to Blaze, a creature. Can only be red mana. I'm a 2-color deck and he costs a lot. He costs 9 mana. But I mean I don't know. I think I have a favoritism for this card because I grew up playing it a lot. It's really not good enough to be in this deck. Horde Smelter is great to remove people's artifacts. A borderline must-answer kind of thing sometimes. Scourge of Valkis is another combo potential dragon. Again, in Grixis Dragonstorm, this may be the win condition. This is something also, if you have blue, you can write a Replication Kick. That does about 160 damage spread to, I think in quantity of 5 to as many targets as you want. This and Dragonstorm's great because you can tutor this out at any level of the Dragonstorm and start doing different amounts of damage. Math is hard in that one, but again, this is just a good combo combo effect. Flame Blast is another generic dragon. Again, something that will most likely be replaced when a better one gets printed. We have the Buddies, the Ryusi, and the Kokosho, because I love both of them, and I am reanimating quite a bit, so they may be pretty good. And we have Skittles. This one causes me some grief. I don't plan on trying to infect anyone out. Sometimes he ends up literally just being a regenerator wall, because infect can get me a lot of bad attention. But, I mean, it can just lock out a game. If he's the only one that can survive on the board and I can get 1-2 hits off, that's probably it. Dragon Tyrant is the big nasty. Again, this is something you would most likely see in a Scion of the Dragon deck, because you can sneak this guy right under Scion and double strike someone and almost kill them in 1 hit. This deck, it's more or less just a big beater. That upkeep cost really sucks, but a flying double strike fire-breathing trample. It's just gross. And the combo dragon of the deck is World Gorger Dragon. I am assuming most people know this combo. I will go ahead and explain it anyways when I get to the enchantment. In general, this is a 6 mana, 7/7 flying trample nightmare dragon. That's a fantastic stat. I don't think I've ever actually attacked with it. He could be a 1/1. That's really all. What matters is this a giant paragraph down here. When he enters the battlefield, I exile all other permanents I control. And when he leaves the battlefield, those permanents come back. That obviously screams combo. I will explain that when we get shortly there. There's lots of ways of interacting with that. I chose to not entirely focus on that. I didn't want that to be the goal of the deck. But let's see what else we got here. I just like the idea of swinging with a giant pile of dragons a lot more than combo. There are 4 tutors in this deck currently. We have the 2 strict tutors, essentially just getting exactly what I need, most likely some ramp effect. We have a new tutor. I love the fact that they made a red tutor. That's an instant speed and it goes to hand. Granted, it's restricted to dragons, but they made a red instant speed tutor. That's just fantastic. And a pseudo tutor is buried alive. Again, this is a graveyard tutor. Any more competitive design for reanimation, you would see things like Entomb. This deck is not competitive, it's very slow, there's no point of running something like that. Let's go on to the other spells, because there's not a whole bunch really. There's a slight reanimation package here. When I saw this artwork, and I think it was Duels of the Planeswalkers 2014, 13, somewhere, I knew that this was going to be printed as a card, and they of course released it with the conspiracy set. Love this artwork. I love the original artwork with Zoncha. Yeah, because I just like Zoncha's character, but this artwork is actually fantastic. Victimize essentially says I reanimate 2 creatures, they come to play tapped. If I sack 1, I have. Necrologia. I used to play this a lot. In different metas, this can work out great, and sometimes it's a suicide go. Essentially, this is you could be a pansy and maybe just draw a couple cards. It's kind of like an instant speed, end of turn necropotence effect. It's a one-shot instant speed that you have to pay 5, and you have to do this before you discard. So what you want to do, ideally, is if you're in a good state, maybe if you're still around 40 life, and you've ramped up to this really fast, you want to just go hog wild with this. If you can survive for a turn and there's no threats, maybe someone just board wiped, you can end a turn Necrologia. Do it for like the full amount. Do it if you're at 40 life, pay 35 life. You'll draw a lot of your deck. 30 of your decks in your hand, discard all the beef, get the reanimation spells coming up. Because that means everyone's going to have 1 turn to stop you from reanimating a 30-year deck. That's disgusting. This is not the best design to run this kind of all-in reanimation combo. It's not even a combo, it's just an all-in attempt. If you're feeling a little worried about that, then you can of course always get the Whip of Erebos or some lifelink gear. A lot of generals are better at this sort of play, like Aloro, because you're an Esper, so you have counterspell backup. You have white creatures which are pretty good to reanimate too, like just generic creatures. But Aloro also gives you extra life. Again, that's like an all-in, just dig and try to reanimate mass. If you win, you win. If you don't, you don't. Either way, it's going to be a really fun play. Living Death, just another generic reanimate spell. Rise of the Dark Realms could be a win more, not even using our creatures, just reanimate whatever's good. And we are doing Tribal. Patriarch's Bidding is fantastic. It's, again, something you would typically see in a Scion of the Ur-Dragon deck. You just keep spamming his ability and then Pate's bidding them all back. And then we have some board wipes. We have a Damnation, a Crux, since it is non-dragons, a dragon board wipe or a non-dragon board wipe. All is Dust for those pesky enchantments. Decree of Pain to draw cards. And the last spell is Dragonstorm. Again, this is something you would typically see where blue is added to it, simply because blue has lots of 1 mana costing cantrips. You can even throw in free spells, like Baubles and whatnot. Blue is even better because, again, Quicken. The spell Quicken, which is a 1 blue instant, you can do this at the end of someone's turn, and you don't even have to get the haste dragons out. Just dumb. This deck is not really focused on Dragonstorm. I mean, I don't even have a Grim Monolith in here, or a Mana Crypt or Mana Vault, I don't think. But it's in here because I could just get 1 or 2 dragons straight to play. Let's go on to the other non-land permanents. There's a few enchantments. The newest one, this is a fantastic enchantment. This is really good with Nicobolus if he is your general. It is essentially the same effect the Scourge gives us, except it triggers on every creature that enters the battlefield. It gives our flyers haste, so it's a haste enabler, but the dragon itself comes in and deals damage. So if you have a Nicobolus, he can come in and poke your opponent for 1, and they discard their hand. But again, just mounting that up with lots and lots of dragons makes it really dumb. We have an Animate Dead. This is the combo enchantment that goes with the World Gorger Dragon. There's a few of these enchantments that reanimate a creature, like there's just like Necromancy. There's just so many of them. I like this one because it's foil, and I'm trying to foil out the deck. What happens here is this enchantment will come into play, and it will target the creature in the graveyard. It will reanimate the creature. If this enchantment leaves play, then the creature goes back to the graveyard. So how this works is I get this guy in the graveyard somehow. I will enchant him, and he will come into play. He will then trigger and remove everything on my board except him from play. He exiles the enchantment. Since the enchantment is no longer in play, World Gorger Dragon goes to the graveyard. Then the enchantment re-enters, and then I can retarget the World Gorger Dragon. It keeps coming in and out of play, essentially. It makes a state where all of my permanents are coming in and out of play. I can float mana in response. There's lots of things I can do in response. For example, if that Scourge was in play, or if I had the enchantments, this would just keep on burning everyone out. There's a few lands that come into play and bleed people out, or I can gain infinite life. There's a Warstorm Surge coming up, which itself is also another win condition, like a Perforos effect, essentially. Just really dumb. I can even generate infinite mana. I can try to stack that. There's just lots of really dumb things you can do with World Gorger Dragon. This is, if you're looking at my deck, if you're familiar with this, then you see this is very tame. I'm not trying to abuse this. There's literally one single enabler, and I don't have a lot of tutors to go straight for it. We have Phyrexian Arena for card draw. This is something the deck desperately needs. Crucible of Fire is a generic +3/+3 enchantment. It gives my general and 28 creatures in my deck +3/+3. Sounds pretty good. And Warstorm Surge is the enchantment that goes with that. Well, it works actually with everything. Even something that has fire breathing. When that creature enters the battlefield, I can pay fire breathing with this trigger on the stack, and it will do more damage. This in Dragons, if you have this out in your Dragonstorm, you're probably just going to win anyways without combat. It's a dumb chant. Whip is a good lifesaver. It's pseudo reanimation, but if I'm going to go like be super ballsy with the Necrologia there, this is something that may save me. Like literally, if I'm even whittled down a little bit, if I can get that out and I can swing, or someone even swings into my dragons, then I can do a little bit more. I can try to do a recovery from doing like a maximum life Necrologia there. And let's go on to the small selection of Planeswalkers. There's not a lot. Sarkhan is still in the deck. He's very flavorful. He just makes my creatures deal damage equal to their power. It's kind of just like they hit someone. Again, this is something you would typically see in a Nicobolus deck. Liliana is here mainly because I will have some very big dragons in my hand. At some point, I need to discard them. I took the Wheel of effects, like Wheel of Fortune and Reforge the Soul, out. And I really don't want to be sitting on like some big dragons in my hand the entire game. She's really good at that. I mean, the other abilities are great, but she is essentially there just so I can get something out of my hand. She is herself a threat. She has to be dealt with. She's scary as hell. And going on theme, we also have Ugin. I mean, he's just dumb. If this ever ultimates, there's no reason I shouldn't win because I have nothing but high mana costing dragons in my deck. Let's get this guy out of here. There is a handful of ramp. Unlike my last video, I do have a bauble now, and I have the Soul Ring, so I have my 2/1 drops, and then I have not a lot of 2 drops. I took the diamonds out, which feels really weird. We have a Mind Stone, and a Thrawn Dynamo, and a Gilded Lotus. So I did kind of tinker with the ramp a little bit. I took the Coalition Relic out most recently, I think. I may take Buried, I don't know. I want to put Coalition Relic back in. I don't know what to cut. I like the nice round number of 30 creatures. I don't know, that's just brewing. Let me get away from that. Now, I do have an Urborg and Coffers in here, so Expedition Map is perfect to get that. And I do have a Sensei's Top in here because, again, I'm not running fetch lands, but this is a deck that I really like to see win, even though I'm specifically making it weak. Top does help thin out the deck, and not thin out the deck, but smooth align the deck so I can see what's coming up. And also, if there is like a big dumb dragon coming up that I know I can't cast for a while, I can just keep pushing it down. As I said, there are 39 lands in this deck. My general costs 7 mana. My curve on my deck is almost 5 to 6. The curve on this is atrocious. So 39 lands, kind of necessary. Mirrored Landscapes, good generic way of ramping a little bit. Crucible of the Spirit Dragon is fantastic because I can use this to store counters for them, my dragons that is. Temple of the False God and Ancient Tomb are nice quick mana. And Nykthos is there because I have a lot of red permanents, or red mana symbols. We have an Urborg and a Cabal Coffers. And we're on to the colorful lands. The one land I really wanted to get here was a Cavern of Souls. I don't have enough Cavern of Souls spread out. I just put everything into what decks I felt were needed it more. And since this is a Reanimator deck, I didn't think it was as necessary. But the next Cavern of Souls I get will most likely make its way in here. We have the Temple, we got the Graven Cairns for the filter, the Buddy, nor the Check land, the Shock land, the Pain land, Bloodstained Mire, and a fake dual land. Lofty long-term goal is to get a black border dual land. I really don't like fake cards in my decks, but this is a foil black border dual land. It will most likely be replaced. There's a new dual land being printed and returned as Zendikar. If I ever get that, they will most likely take this out. Like, I would love to get a black border dual Badlands, like a beta. That's not going to happen anytime soon. I do have the 2 legendary lands. It's not really super helpful other than with the Kami Dragons or Bladewing. This is one that goes with my World Girl Dragon combo. This one gives me infinite life, and this one bleeds out the opponents because these are coming in and out of play as many times as I want. And then I just have a whole bunch of basics. And this is kind of where the last year's purging went money-wise, because I'm dumb. There's no real point in why anyone would ever need all of these. This is kind of the last straw on the camel's back that makes me not want to take this out, and that's a bad idea. But this is a dedicated deck specifically for one purpose, and that purpose is because of the person who gave me this card. This is a deck that will always be upgraded. Wizards will always print new and dumb dragons, and they're currently making them stronger and stronger. There's about 5 dragons in my current list of 28 that I feel could easily be replaced. Favoritism is keeping a few in, but yeah. If you have any ideas or feedback, I'm always welcome. This is a deck that is, again, not very competitive, not very strong. It's very late game. It's very grindy. It just tends to die very quickly to combo or control or aggro or just about all the common types of decks in this format. But as a personal favorite, I'm just very fond of this particular card, and I like the idea of what this deck is trying to do. So I'm going to keep this like it is for now. But yeah, any feedback or ideas is always welcome.